Things are getting tight at the top of the Serie A standings.
The Madrid derby leaves La Liga wide open, while Bayern may have just shut the door on the Bundesliga title race. All this and much, much more on this episode 43 of the No Business Soccer Podcast. Kick us off, Snooze.
Let's dig in. Oh, man. I started dragging it out a bit just in case, give him some time on the button pushing. I'm starting to think that he's like testing me now. Like, let's see how long.
Getting that limit. Yeah,
exactly. Well, welcome back, everybody, to the No Business Soccer Podcast. I am your host, Snooze, and we're here with the whole fam. And of course, that includes Brainiac J-Fam in the back. And then we have, just everybody here. Danny P on the ones and twos. We have my boy, Hype Man, Vic. Hype Man, what you sipping on, dog?
I'll tell you what we got. I don't know if I think I sipped this already, but I just wanted it again. This is Weller 107. It's one of the bottles that started my bourbon journey that I finally got just in December, the end of December. And, I'm feeling good. And, I think we should have some good whiskey today. So that's what we're having. Weller 107.
It's a cold day. For some reason, I don't know if this is true, but I think of like whiskey as a cold weather drink. And it's cold now. So,
they have some like the thick boys out there. That'll be a good
cold
weather
that's
drink.
Me. Yeah. I'm a thick boy. That's what they call me. So
boy. And some thick whiskey.
Today we don't have a full slate. It actually could be a shorter show depending on how much we want to talk about. But of course, everybody's just recovering from the Super Bowl and the American version of football. And Vic, how was your Super Bowl? I know you loved watching the Eagles beat up.
One of the worst days of my life, man. It's no. It was kind of cool seeing Kansas City, lose and get just manhandled. I just wish it was any other team that was doing it. That would have been great. But you gotta take the good and the bad. And
my wife was very excited for it, and so I'm glad that she could share that with us this time. I don't know. It was a pretty lackluster Super Bowl because they were getting beat so bad. And in your point, if you don't know the show, he's a Cowboys fan. That's why he's like, it's horrible.
Eagles are number one rivals, so not great. I was happy to see Saquon get a ring. That's pretty cool. I've always liked Saquon Barkley.
He's a giant, though. Or an ex-giant, I guess. That's weird. Anyway,
I've always liked Saquon.
Okay, we're talking the wrong football for too long here. What I will say, though, is that for some reason, I'm a new father. We have a newborn, and we don't get out much anymore. But because of that, my wife was like itching to just make all this shit for the Super Bowl, and she made like some croissant pizza pocket things. She made some what was it, like hamburger bites or Big Mac bites, some spicy buffalo dip, and I'm like looking at the table, all this food, and it's me and her and our daughter who is drinking milk. So I need to go for a run for a little bit, but anyway, happy day after the Super Bowl. Hope your team won or your squares hit. That's probably what most people were waiting for. Okay, wait, did you get squares this year?
I did. I got some squares. We hit one, but I think we're split in between three. It was like $400, and then
does that mean is that the like you hit a lick? Is that what that saying means?
I think so.
We're not.
I'm not sure. Not sure. That might be something different. I don't know.
We're losing people by the minute. Let's just jump right in. I know there's no English football this week, so we don't have Premier League or Wrexham recap, but we do have some boots on the ground to discuss some goings on in Austin, Texas, with the Austin FC Minute.
Yes. Oh, good swig of water you had there. I saw that.
I know.
You didn't do it quick enough. But this will hopefully just be a quick minute as well. Austin FC have completed their Coachella Valley Invitational games. There were 2 games against LA Galaxy and St. Louis FC. But both were 1-1 draws. But what the interesting thing was in the first game against LA Galaxy, our Alexander Svatok went to tackle Diego Fagundes, which we all remember Diego Fagundes. I think he accidentally stuck his foot out a little bit too much, but Fagundes did not take lightly to that. And they got in a scuffle. They were pushing stuff and everything. And it was pretty cool to see. And Fagundes was just talking shit to like every Austin FC person who was on Twitter, like saying that Fagundes, because Fagundes kind of like covered up and kind of looked like like a wuss, but it was pretty funny. And he started talking shit to everybody on Twitter who was calling him out on it. But I like how Svatok was like, I don't give a fuck. He wasn't my teammate. Like, I'll tackle him.
I mean, also when you see the pictures, like he's at least a foot taller than.
Yeah, there was somebody that was like, I've seen enough. Hang his jersey in the rafters. That was a pretty eventful weekend. And also just breaking news as of today, Mikel Dessler got his green card. He will no longer take up an international spot for Austin FC. So we have another international spot open on the roster, and Rodo is cooking.
Of course he is. Dang, that's awesome. So I'm thinking, what are we?
Else we can get?
12 days away from the start of the season. Wow, putting it that way is crazy. I hadn't said that out loud.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm excited now. Like I'm geeking out over here. It's gonna be fun. Can't wait. Yep. It's funny because whenever it's like the slog of the end of the season and we're obviously losing and not gonna make the playoffs, it feels like, oh, come on, let's just get this last game over with. And now it's like we've been deprived for so long. I was ready for it,
And we look pretty good.
A lot of change, a lot of things, a lot of change. So, okay. Well, I think before we jump into the leagues, we'll jump over to the UEFA competitions to look at some of the games coming up, the playoffs, if you will. Playoffs? UEFA competitions. Okay. And I know we talked about this a bit last episode, so I won't spend too much time on it, but the Conference League, Europa League, and Champions League playoffs. I love saying that word. I don't know why. Just feels homey. Feels good. They start tomorrow, actually, Tuesday, and go on through Thursday. So we have in the Champions League. Actually, I'm not going to do that. You know what? We're gonna start this like a concert. We're starting in the Conference League. The Conference League. There's really only two matches that I would probably even recommend to someone watching. The main one, though, is Heidenheim versus Copenhagen. That one, we know, obviously, we don't cover the Copenhagen team, the league here that they're in, but we do cover the Bundesliga, which Heidenheim is in. And Heidenheim are absolutely terrible. I think they have 4 or 5 losses in a row. They're not very good right now. And I think it's partly because they were in this competition and they're not a team built for it. As you know, you've seen with a lot of other teams around Europe. So them going up against Copenhagen on Thursday, they could be, these are 2-legged playoffs, I believe, like a home and away. So they might be out of it before we could even see them really get anything from it, but we'll see. Either way, it was cool to have them in there, but I think they're a little too bad right now. The other one is Real Betis versus Ghent. Betis, mid-table team in La Liga. Ghent, they're usually down for a scrap, especially, you see these teams in the Europa leagues or in the UEFA competitions, and you don't expect to have too big of a test, really. But then they always surprise you. Not so much like the Turkish clubs, but yes, Ghent is pretty good. Okay, enough of the Conference League. We're talking about Europa League now. And Europa League, a few matches that I'm looking forward to. The main one is going to be Porto and Roma. That one's going to be fun for a lot of different reasons. We've talked about it this whole time, Vic, the Roma revival tour since Claudio Ranieri took over. He's got the boys playing right. And it's fun, man. I would just want to see if they can continue this. The dude is, he's like in his 70s, just killing it. He already retired twice and he's come back. This guy's just a really good coach. So seeing him in the knockout rounds, in the playoffs, if you will. God, I can't say knockout rounds. We're American and we say playoffs. And it's right this time around. It should be fun. Let's see. The next one I want to talk about, Anderlecht and Fenerbahce. That's one of the Turkish teams that's always fun to watch, Fenerbahce. And, Jose Mourinho, you got to see him going up against a team that, Anderlecht is one of the bigger teams that's not in one of the bigger leagues. And then, of course, we have Real Sociedad versus Midtjylland. I don't really know too much about Midtjylland, but Real Sociedad, they just got a win. We'll talk about them when we cover the Liga in just a moment. But for this match specifically, they usually do pretty good in the European competitions, and now it feels like maybe they should start to get a little bit of ground. They should be able to get their legs underneath them, if you will. But man, they have a lot of ground to cover in La Liga, and hopefully they can get some momentum by this match. And then, Vic, did Liverpool play in the Champions League playoffs? No, because
we'll wait.
Yeah, let's just wait for the round of 16. But we do have some big matchups in the Champions League. And I'm going to go through all of them on Tuesday and Wednesday, separate those, and then we'll just talk about briefly what we're looking forward to the most. Because, again, these are the teams that we all know and love. On Tuesday, we have PSG versus Brest, which is pretty cool because Brest is one of the teams that surprised everybody, got into the Champions League, and now they're into the playoffs. And they're both this wouldn't happen in the old format because I don't think that the two teams that were in the same league could play until I think the quarterfinals, maybe. So having some French on French, just a better way to say that, is pretty cool to see Brest and PSG because, yeah, I mean, that's the team that they want to beat. Although I'm sure they would have liked to get another team. Juventus versus PSV, Sporting versus Dortmund, and then the big one on Tuesday night, Manchester City versus Real Madrid. Oh, in the playoffs. That is awesome. Vic, what are you looking forward to most in those?
I always look forward to Brest. I think I really want to see Brest. Yeah. No, Man City, Real Madrid is going to be great. I think whichever team loses, it's going to be pretty noteworthy to see either Manchester City lose or Real Madrid, who just never lose in the Champions League. It's going to be good unless they both just draw out.
You kind of feel like, yeah, they could draw this one and then they have to get someone has to win in the next one. But it feels like City have an out this season because they haven't been good. So I mean, I feel like Real Madrid can probably come into this one as a favorite, and I'm sure they are. I haven't seen the odds for it yet. But then on Wednesday, of course, we get a couple more big ones. Atalanta versus Club Brugge. I've heard that. I was listening to a podcast. They say it's not Bruges, it's Brugge. Okay, sure. Club Brugge. But Atalanta, one of the no business favorites anyways. We cover them a lot in Serie A, and they're just fun to watch. Bayern versus Celtic. That one should be fun. Celtic, they're going to have that place rocking. Monaco versus Benfica. And then we also have Feyenoord versus Milan, which is crazy because Milan just got Santi Jimenez and, the Mexican forward. He played for Feyenoord. He was so good there. And Milan just bought him. And they're playing the round of 16, and he's – so that's pretty messed up, man. That's, come on. That's that's awesome. Anyway. Okay. Let's move on. I think we're ready. Anything I missed? No, I think we're ready to go into the leagues. Vic, and I'll let you do the honors, sir. You choose which one.
You let me do the honors.
Yeah.
Well, okay. My favorite was Serie A. So, to Serie A. You're just trying to make sure I read the notes, huh? That's what you're trying to do.
Yeah. Checking in on it, make sure, a little.
I'm there.
We had a manager once that would do listening checks, which is the stupidest thing in the world. Like, listening check, what was I just talking about? Like, are you kidding me? What the heck? So yeah, this was my version of that. Look at that, listening check. But we have a full slate of games in the Serie A. And let's start with Friday. Yeah, I have the dates right. I'm always self-conscious I'm going to get the dates wrong. Friday, February 7th, we had Juventus make it 3 wins in 5 in the Serie A as they beat Como 2-1. Como had their chances here, and it didn't play out like a newly promoted team against an Italian giant. They just lacked that killer instinct and have now lost 4 of their last 5 in the Serie A and not looking good. They have so many points, though. They're not going to get relegated this year. Hopefully, they can show us. Saturday, February 8th, Atalanta embarrassed Verona on the road 5-0 in a 5-0 win. Retegui was already the top goal scorer in Serie A, and he bags 4 more in this one to extend that lead. This was a massive result for the ATL as they got some other matches and results they needed, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. Milan get another win, this time a 2-0 win against Empoli. Both teams in with 10 men, and Milan made it a little harder than it really needed to be. They should have won comfortably, but they get it done regardless. And Santi Jimenez gets on the score sheet, and Joao Felix, he was everywhere. I mean, everybody will see the highlight or the low light. I don't know, the opposite of a highlight where he was clear on goal and then just like tried to chip and it didn't work out. But outside of that highlight, he was really good. He was all over the place. Torino get unlucky in a mid-table duel with Genoa that ends 1-1. The stats look similar, but it just felt like watching that match, Torino were going to see out that 1-0 win, but a horribly placed pass high up the pitch gets picked off, and a deflected shot ends in the back of the net, and they end 1-1. On Sunday, February 9th, Roma get all 3 points on the road in Venice as they beat Venezia 1-0. Dybala had been struggling for goals lately, but his penalty in the second half is the difference here, leaving Venezia with back-to-back losses, and it is getting late early for Venezia. Is it late early? Is that a saying? I think that's a saying. Anyway, our Lazio get a 5-1 win over Monza, who are surely on their way down. Lazio make it 3 wins in 5 Serie A matches. They top the Europa League table. They get the dick pic eagle handler out of the building, and all is well on the sky blue side of Rome for our Lazio. Way to go, boys. Cagliari get 3 super important points against relegation-threatened Parma. Every time I see Cagliari, I'm very impressed because how packed that stadium is. For a team that's, not one of the top teams in Serie A, they always have a packed-out stadium. And the bottom of that table is so packed that, there's a lot of red down there. We'll see here in a moment, but Cagliari is definitely standing apart. The Milkmen and Bologna finish 0-0. Lecce are cool with any points at this stage of the campaign, but Bologna are making it hard to believe that they're going to fight to get back into Europe next year. Just not looking likely. Napoli dropped points after drawing 1-1 with Udinese at home. They dominated pretty much everything about this match except for the scoreline, and that draw left the door open for Inter to take advantage, and they did against our Fiorentina. They get a 2-1 win today, and we'll talk more about this one in a moment. Vic, tell us what that table looked like now.
Yeah, well, taking a look at the table, even despite the draw, Napoli are still on top. They have 55 points. Inter Milan, though, is now breathing right down their neck. They're 1 point behind them with 54 points in their win. Atalanta take the third spot. There's a 4-point gap between them, and they have 50 points. Lazio rounding out the top 4 with 45 points, another 5-point gap. So a little bit of parity, but those top two are definitely fighting for it. Tickling the top 4, we have Juventus with 43 points, and just 1 point behind them, we'll put in Fiorentina right there. They have 42 points despite that loss. So looking at the bottom of the table, the season ended today, and Parma would be the first losers, winners, losers. I don't know. First one's out.
First losers. I think that's our first saying. I like that.
Yeah. First losers, they would be the first team relegated. They have 20 points in the 18th spot. Venezia keep their badge and their star while they're still in the 19th spot and not the 20th spot. They have 16 points. And Monza is holding up the rest of the table with 13 points. All 3 teams on the bottom fighting to stay on the bottom. They all got losses this past weekend. But snooze. Like I said, Inter Milan are breathing down Napoli's neck, and luckily they got a win against, unfortunately, our Fiorentina. Tell us a little bit more about that match and how it went for them.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy whenever you watch this match happen because it looked like Inter were determined to make this match play out differently than the one they played out just this past Thursday and the reverse fixture. And they actually put Fiorentina under a ton of pressure. It was just different. It felt, you could feel that the home crowd and what they were playing for was different. But our Viola boys came back from a goal down, got a penalty in the 44th minute thanks to Madragora. You like that name, Madragora?
Yeah, that was nice. I was going to see how you said that.
Yeah, it's hard. But after the break, Marko Arnautovic puts Inter up front, and this time for good. And again, like I was saying, it's just crazy how drastic the games changed with a little bit over a week, or no, not even a week. What was this? We had the 6th was their first match, and and the 9th or 10th, what the heck? Oh, today, 4 days. That's insane, and it played out so differently. But I think really, I mean, we could talk about all these types of analysis and stats, and maybe different players were on the pitch. But really what I think it came down to is the fact that Inter went into this match knowing that Napoli had dropped points. And so the intensity was ratcheted up from the get-go. They knew that they lost this match, they had to win it, and then Napoli dropped points, so they had to win it even more. And they played like it. And whenever they're playing that intense, they're going to get something out of it. Lautaro Martinez is just amazing out there doing his thing. Just what a great match for them. Unfortunately for our Fiorentina, but both teams are still doing pretty damn good. And we're looking forward to it. And actually, the thing that I will say too is that Napoli dropping points, and then you'll see a few other top teams drop points in the leagues around Europe. It makes all of the I don't want to say Scudetto because that's not for every league, but it makes the top three or four points or 3 or 4 teams as far as in the table, like all close, and anybody can really take this. Very interesting. It'll be really cool to see how it ends. Hopefully we get to see it continue to be really fun. Serie A seems like it's setting up to be a really good finish, though. So, that is what I was seeing in that game, and I had a lot of fun watching that one. It's always fun to watch those mid-Monday games. Okay, Vic, I think that is it for this one, and I think I know where you want to go next.
I want to go to Spain.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, because I'm reading the notes, right? Yeah. So, to La Liga.
Okay. To La Liga. On Friday, we had Rayo making it 3 wins in a row in a 1-0 win against Vic's Volley-Doli. And it is all smiles in Vallecas as the European dream is alive and well. Valladolid have now dug themselves in a hole that I am not sure that they can get themselves out of at this point. Saturday, in what was a game of the weekend in La Liga, Celta Vigo come from 2 goals down to get a 3-2 win over Betis. The win was Celta's first win in 5 matches in La Liga, and Betis fans won't be too happy about much in this one, but something they can be happy about is the fact that Anthony, the guy they just brought over from Manchester United alone, he got a goal in this one. So look at him. He's playing against La Liga, and he's scoring, and he's doing well. So there you go. Maybe he'll stay there. Bilbao get a 3-0 win over Girona in a packed-out San Mamés, looking as sexy as ever, of course. And Oyan Sanset gets a hat trick as a thank you to the fans. Girona have lost 3 of their last 5 now, but Bilbao are cruising towards Champions League qualification, and maybe Vic will tell us, but dare we say they are title challengers? I don't know. Villarreal get a 2-1 win over Las Palmas on the road. They fought off an emotionally charged first half from Las Palmas and get 2 second-half goals from Alex Baena and Ayoze Perez. And anytime that those two are scoring, it's probably a recipe for 3 points. The Madrid derby ends 1-1. Derby. I said derby. Whoa, derby. That was weird. The Madrid derby ends 1-1 for the 3rd consecutive time, and we'll dig more into this one in a second. On Sunday, Getafe beat Alaves, Deportivo Alaves for you, Vic, in a very aesthetically pleasing matchup. I do say so myself. Blue on red just always looks good. And going into this one, it was a big 6-pointer relegation scrap, if you will. But Getafe, if they could stack some results, they could probably make it out of that make it out of the relegation scrap and towards mid-table, especially because all the bottom teams are sinking in La Liga. We'll see that in just a moment. In yet another 6-point relegation scrap, Valencia get a 2-0 home win over Leganés. 2 first-half goals was enough to keep all 3 points. And, man, when you watch them play out in a packed-out Mestalla, they just deserve to stay up. That place is awesome. Real Sociedad stopped their skid of 3 straight La Liga losses with a 2-1 win over Espanyol. Espanyol, despite their place in the table, had been in great form recently. So, yes, this does mean that it was a great resort for Real Sociedad, La Real, and hopefully they can build on that and get some results going forward because they have been just really bad lately. Barcelona take all 3 points in Seville in a 4-1 win over Sevilla. Sevilla actually played well here and had plenty of chances to keep it close, but it just wasn't their day. Barca make it 3 wins in a row and take advantage of the Madrid derby splitting points. And the last game we had today, Monday, Osasuna get a stoppage time equalizer to split the points on the road with Mallorca in a 1-1 draw. Vic, over to you for that table.
Yep. Taking a look at the table, despite the draw during the Madrid derby, they are still number 1 and 2. Real Madrid are in the number 1 spot with 50 points, and Atleti right behind them with 49 points. And since Barcelona was able to pick up 3 points, they are just 1 point behind Atleti, 2 points behind the league leaders, Real Madrid. They have 48 points for Barcelona. And things getting really interesting in the top 3. It looks very familiar. Yeah, there's always those 3, but it's getting really tough, really, really close.
Hey, but look at. Oh, go ahead. Maybe you might say it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say you creeping up behind them is Atletico Bilbao. They have 44 points, just 4 points behind them to join in this race and try to see maybe you're right. They could be challenging for this if they get a few more key results here.
6 points to the top of the table. Like I think that's the difference between Liverpool and Arsenal right now, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
We might have a game in hand. So anyway, the point is, like, if other title challengers are, in the race technically, but not really, I think we have to give Bilbao some street cred around here.
Yeah.
Even though I don't see it happening, but it's cool. It's cool. They're 6 points behind.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. No, it should be interesting coming up just to end the season or for the rest of the season. And looking good so far. I will say tickling the top 4 is Villarreal. They are 4 points behind Bilbao, so they're a little bit further away. But they're always going to be looming there, kind of seeing what they can sneak in and maybe try to get into those Champions League spots. But I'll tell you who has no chance. Valencia. They're in the 18th spot with 22 points. They are the only team in the bottom 3 to get a win. Alaves, like you said earlier, in the 19th spot with the loss. They have 21 points. And holy guacamole, my Valladolid. I'm starting to feel bad for him. I'm calling them by their real name, apparently. Real Valladolid at 15 points, a 4-game losing streak. Not looking good, but let's see if they can turn it around because I kind of like their merch. You know what I mean? It's pretty nice. So
look at what I want to call out. Look at the bottom of the table, though, because even though your Valladolid might not make it out, I mean, the chances what is that? A 7-point gap between them and the next.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. Is that for them? You're drinking to them?
Yeah, I'm trying to drink for them. Making me drink. 6
I
points between them and Alaves. And then 7 points between them and Valencia. So need 8 points to get out of relegation zone for right now.
When you look at Valencia, though, you see that green there. This isn't part of the talking points I had. I just wanted to call it out because they have 3 wins. You can see in the last, 6 matches you have there.
Mm-hmm.
They have only 5 wins all season. So obviously they're getting hot and starting to climb up that table. Let's do it, Valencia. Let's stay up. Let's go, baby. You're almost there. Anyway. It's fun. It's getting fun in La Liga.
Yeah, it's getting good. And then mixing some stuff up. But it still doesn't compare to the top of the table. Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid. Atleti, as you say. Tell us about that match because I want to know more about that draw they had. Well,
yeah.
Not like it's very different from the last 3, but, tell us about that draw.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. These matches, unfortunately, they always kind of tend to be a bit of the same. Real Madrid pressured a lot, have most of the possession. Atleti is trying to hit them on the counter. But I guess I'll start with reading out the stats just so you can kind of get a feel for what happened. We'll start with, let's see. Real Madrid had 23 shots and 9 on target. Atletico Madrid had 10 shots and 1 on target. So massive discrepancy there. Los Blancos had 61% of the possession and 665 completed passes. That sounds like a weird stat. Completed pass, like that's what we use in the NFL. Anyway. But Atleti had 39% possession, golly, and 441 passes. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, just it didn't have the ball much. But obviously, the score line will tell you that they took advantage of their opportunities. And something I learned because it says they had 1 shot on target and they had 1 goal. So does the shots on target, does that include penalties? Because that's what they scored on. The first half penalty for Atleti was the difference between the 2 sides at the half. And I was just watching the second half, and I felt like Jude Bellingham decided to turn it on because in the first half, Real Madrid was not good. But the second half, Jude Bellingham was everywhere. It felt like the rest of the team caught up and they were all trying to get behind him. And then it was just relentless attacking pressure and chance after chance. And honestly, it was actually Jude Bellingham's deflected shot is how Mbappe got his goal. but it felt like it was going to be at least 2 or 3 more and that they would get this win pretty comfortably. But Jan All Black did his thing, stood in there, got some blocks. And yeah, I mean, they draw 1-1. It's what they do in this match, apparently. I honestly felt like that it just feels like for a Real Madrid side who would look at this as points dropped. I mean, they would look at it like that regardless. But what I mean is they had so many chances to get it over the line in that second half, and they just didn't take it. But really, as I mentioned in the look ahead, Barcelona were always going to be the real winners here. Whether someone won and dropped all the points or if they split, this is probably the best outcome because they gained 2 points on both people or on both teams. Barcelona is sitting there now. That title race is getting closer, and like we were saying, man, it's getting fun. It was definitely an interesting way to look at the table. Maybe not the most interesting match, but it happens. It's a Madrid derby. You know what happens. But one thing I do want to call out, Vic, is let me move this over here. Las Palmas and their captain, Kyrian Rodriguez. This is an article per Adriana Garcia from ESPN. Las Palmas captain Kyrian Rodriguez has revealed he will stop playing for 6 months following confirmation that his Hodgkin lymphoma has returned. Kyrian, 28, has only missed 1 La Liga game for Las Palmas this season while starting 21 league games. This is him talking now. They told me yesterday that I have relapsed from cancer, the Spanish midfielder said in a news conference on Thursday. I hope to see you again in 25-26 season, and I am 100% convinced that it will be in the first division. Gideon was first diagnosed with cancer in August 2022 and returned to play April 30th, 2023, having undergone treatment. He's a youth product of Las Palmas. Gideon gained promotion to the first team in the summer of 2019 and has made 154 appearances for the club in all competitions. And that just sucks, man. I was watching all of the matches like I usually do, and they had like a tribute to what seemed like a pretty young guy in the stands. And so I was kind of curious of what was going on. Like, what happened? Did he get hurt or what was going on? And it was much worse than I thought. Shout out to Gideon Rodriguez of Las Palmas. Our thoughts, prayers, whatever you want to call them, go out to you, sir. Get better. Yeah, there's a drink for you.
Cheers.
Man, just sucks.
You better come back. Like that. And we'll see you when you get back, man.
We talking about him in 25-26 season. Like you said, 100% conviction that they're going to be staying up. And I'm looking at the table now. I mean, you were just showing it. They have a lot of red on there recently, but yeah. I mean, Las Palmas, we were talking about them. They were killing it not too.
Yeah, they were in form, like you said, for a little bit. Unfortunately, four losses, 1 draw in their last 5. They have 23 points, and it's pretty close to relegation just because things are kind of compact over there.
It's tight down there.
Yeah, Valencia has 22 points. So, yeah, Las Palmas, Espanyol, Leganes, and Valencia all within 1 point of each other. And if you throw Alaves in there, 2 points from each other's.
We got like 15 games left to go too. So yeah, man, this is gonna be fun. It's gonna be interesting. But anyway, back to Kyrian Rodriguez. Shout out to you, brother. Get well soon. All right, let's move on to the Bundesliga. Oh, I took that from you. My bad. Let's move on to
just cut us off right now, guys. I know. Go to play the Liga. Y'all should do that. Every time you just hear the name, just go, no matter what happens.
That's my bad.
Even if I'm in the middle of a sentence.
I'm going to be in the middle of a sentence. Oh, that sucked. Okay.
All good.
Well, either way, we're going to talk about the Bundesliga. And, of course, we're going to start on Friday with Bayern Munich. Bayern 3, Bremen 0, a tale as old as time for the Bavarian Kings. Harry Kane gets a brace of penalties. Sané chips in another, and that's all she wrote. Leverkusen dropped points this weekend, so it was a massive and probably title-deciding result. We'll see the table here in just a moment. On Saturday, speaking of Leverkusen, they go 0-0 with Wolfsburg, and they knew the score of the Bayern game going into their match, and they were still unable to break the deadlock. It's 3 draws in a row for Wolfsburg, though, as they start to make a run at Europe themselves. Union get their 6th win of the campaign against a struggling Hoffenheim side, as this one ends 4-0, a 4-0 win on the road, no less, which is damn cool. Great result for Union. Great result for an Union team who were in a free fall not that long ago. Stuttgart go on the road to Dortmund and get a 2-1 win. Great result for our VfB as they had back-to-back losses prior to this win, or prior to whatever they were doing. Bundesliga matches. Another cool fact from this one is that the goal to break the deadlock in this match, and Vic, you'll like this one, but the goal that broke the deadlock for Dortmund and Stuttgart was an own goal, and it was by a former Stuttgart captain now playing for Dortmund, Valdemar Anton. So yeah, take that. I mean, the guy gets
traitor.
Yeah, exactly. He gets paid. He moves over. Anyway, yeah,
still scoring goals
matches. Yeah, exactly. That's a good one. That's a good one. But they lost back-to-back matches prior to this win. So yeah, of course, this is a great result, and it's always good to go on the road and get a win at Signal Iduna Park. Okay, Freiburg 1, Heidenheim 0. Freiburg got a goal in the 30th minute and saw out a 1-0 win the rest of the way. That's back-to-back wins for Freiburg, who are in the fight for Europe, while the team who's still in Europe and Heidenheim have now lost 4 straight matches. We talked about them just a moment ago in the UEFA competition section of this podcast. Mainz and Augsburg go 0-0, and it's a bad time for Mainz to get that result too. And if you recall, I said that I wanted to give them their flowers in January, but they had a lot of matches coming up that I wanted to see how they did. Well, how they've done. They've now lost 3 of their last 5 Bundesliga matches, and they've only won once in that span. So, yeah, they're not getting their flowers yet. They've kind of fallen off a bit. Borussia Mönchengladbach versus Eintracht Frankfurt. There's nothing more German than that. Split the points in a 1-1 draw, and we'll dig in more in a sec. On Sunday, a bottom-of-the-table clash between Kiel and Bochum's 2-2, and neither club benefits. Yay! Kiel had the home crowd behind them and could not get 3 points. But one thing I'm really starting to like a little bit more and more is the Kiel's blue on. It's like a blue jersey on white shorts with red socks. It just looks cool, and I'm not gonna be able to see it for too much longer if they keep playing how they've been playing. And then we had the anti-establishment versus the fully established when Leipzig took on St. Pauli. But being fully established like Leipzig are, and being fully established by the man or whatever they would say, that means Leipzig can afford really good players that the anti-establishment cannot. And that means players like Xavi Simons and Benjamin Sesko, who in this match linked up for a goal and an assist to each other. That's pretty cool. And they get a pretty fairly easy road win. It ends 2-0 Leipzig over St. Pauli. Okay, Vic, where does that leave us with the table?
Well, Bayern Munich are still on top. They have 54 points. There's a huge gap, 8 points between them and never losing Leverkusen. Leverkusen have 46 points. And then 7 points below them is Eintracht Frankfurt with 39 points. So a lot of parity going on with those top 3. And I think the closest race is 3 points behind them is RB Leipzig. Like we said a little while ago, they have 36 points rounding out the top 4. I will throw in Stuttgart in there. They have 35 points. They are tickling the top 4, as we say, with just 1 point behind Leipzig, trying to get into those Champions League positions. Looking at the bottom of the table, as you said, Holstein Kiel, 13 points in the 17th spot. Bochum, 18 points. 18th spot. They wish they had 18 points. They have 11 points. They both got a draw this weekend, leaving them in the 17th and 18th spot for relegation. If one of them got a win, they could have maybe pushed Heidenheim back into the relegation spots. We don't know. So they were trying for it. Unfortunately, they drew, and they stayed down there. But I think you did this out of spite, and I'm going to try it anyway. Eintracht Frankfurt and Borussia Mönchengladbach. You just wanted me to say those.
I did want you to say that. I did. Yeah. Hey, well, hold that thought right there, because
let's go.
I wanted to talk about on the table while we're looking at it. Excuse me. I mentioned it a little earlier. 8 points now is the gap between Bayern Munich and Bayer Leverkusen. And Bayern Munich have been on fire. I mean, look at that. It's just green across the board. Yeah. It feels like 8 points is too much, right? Like there's the title race is done. I would call it. I would
say so too, because they don't even look touchable. Like it's just They look so good out there too.
we're not talking about the Champions League guys. We understand that they're not the best there, but in the Bundesliga, no one can touch them, like you said. And I think, when is the match coming up? We gotta look it up. Hold on.
Which one?
Bundesliga. Because Bayern are playing Leverkusen, I think, this weekend. Let's see. Is it? I wish. Yeah, it is actually Saturday. They play each other at 11:30. So that's awesome. It's going to be massive. But it would have been a bigger point if they had this like closer tallies, right? Because now, even if Bayern lose that, they're still 5 points ahead. And yeah, I just don't see them losing that, or dropping points in like 3 or 2 or 3 matches in a row in order for Leverkusen to catch up. Anyway, that's all I was going to say.
Good call it.
So I think this one, the title was wrapped up, but the bottom of the table, it's not as close. It's not as fun to talk about, but it's not as close. So okay, but yes, back to you. What you were about to say about the match, I believe.
No, I was about to turn it over to you. Unless you want me to just say the names again. Let me do it again. Borussia Mönchengladbach and Eintracht Frankfurt. Tell us about their match that they just had, and it's pretty fun to say anyway.
For the record, I did throw that in there because I was like, "Oh, these names, these are top class names that we need to say." And when they're, when you see that on the menu, it's like, "What is that?" So
I know you were here.
Yeah, exactly. Mind meld. And with the 1-1 draw here, Eintracht have now drawn 3 straight games in the Bundesliga, and the result means that they are definitely no longer in the title race, at least from what I could tell, which is probably already the case, honestly. But they also have allowed the gap between themselves and the fourth place to dwindle to just 3 points. We were talking about it last week, I believe, in the look ahead, how they had built up a gap, and so they weren't going to be easily jumpable as far as getting into the Champions League spots from the Bundesliga. But now they drop points in 3 consecutive games, and Leipzig are right on their heels. So too are Stuttgart. So let's just say that VfB. And I'll give them this, though. They went on the road in a crazy environment. I was watching that match from start to finish, and the Gladbach fans were just insane. Actually, Eintracht fans were pretty crazy, too. They had like how they do it where it's like 2 levels, and they give you like your fans, the away fans are like in the top corner of like the second level, like they kind of do that to – I think this was a derby. I was trying to figure it out. If you're a fan of either of these teams, right, your team's better than we do. If this was a derby, let us know. But it was crazy. They had like flares and stuff. The game had to be delayed for like 5 or 10 minutes. It's pretty cool. But either way, this team goes into this hostile environment, and they get it done as far as getting something out of it. And I would think that if you watch the game in totality, you would probably say that Eintracht probably should have won this game. They had the better chances. They had the better team on the pitch at that time. And, they just didn't go their way. But Gladbach hung in there, and they, a little bit of luck. And I feel like the match could have been different. But either way, Gladbach hung in there. So, both teams are still in great position in the table. But you have to feel for Eintracht dropping points because everybody's just going to point to the fact that Marmoush is no longer there, and now they can't win again, But I want to stick on the Eintracht Frankfurt train for a second because I was listening to the Gegenpressing podcast. If you want to check them out, they're awesome. They cover the Bundesliga in depth, and they were talking about the brilliance of the Eintracht Frankfurt scouting department and how they scout forwards. Not how they do it, but just how this has kind of played out. And so I wrote a little timeline because I thought it was freaking awesome. It's just, maybe I'm a nerd. I don't know, but checks out. In 2019-2020, they sold Sebastian Haller and to West Ham for $50 million. And then they sold Luka Jovic to Real Madrid for $63 million. So in one summer, or in 1 year, I don't know if it doesn't say summer or winter. I'm assuming this was summer. They sold 2 players, one for 50, one for 63 million, which is insane. And the players were their best forwards at the time. And then with that money, they bring in more players, and that leads to 21-22 season. They sell Andre Silva to Leipzig for 45 million. And this leads to more players coming in. And then they have Kolo Muani, who they sold to PSG in 23-24 for 95 million. And now that turns out to be okay because they have a guy named Omar Marmoush on their squad who then gets sold to City this window for 75 million. And now the guy who they have in the spotlight taking over his position is a center forward, a French international center forward, Hugo Ekitike, who they brought in from PSG, I think for like 20 million, which isn't a small amount, but either way, he's kind of that next guy up. So chances are that that's hard to say. Ekitike is going to become a star, and probably good to start watching those Eintracht games right now because the way that they're being sold, I mean, I didn't tally this up, but 50 plus 63, 45, 95, 7, like they have made so much money by finding these young forwards and kind of developing them and shipping them out. And one other thing I would say is, I mean, Kolo Muani, he's not with PSG anymore. He's doing pretty good over there in Serie A with Juventus. But either way, none of those players are particularly great with the teams that they got sold for. So I don't know what the secret sauce is for Eintracht or what's going on. But either way, man, that's insane. Like that is a track record of 5 years of just excellence in their scouting department and also bringing in players to replace all of these guys. Like, you know, Spurs, we had Harry Kane for years, and couldn't even get a backup for the dude. And these guys, they're just selling, you know, $50 million forwards like it's candy every year. So anyway, pretty cool. Kind of like Liverpool, right?
Yeah, you know, yeah, we do. We'll sell 2 or 3, you know, full front line. Who knows?
You know, they in that same podcast, they were also talking about how Liverpool have great relationship with Leipzig. And because they brought in Konate from there, Szoboszlai from there, someone, I can't remember who else. Anyway, it was just pretty crazy. I never really thought about Leipzig being like a factory for the Prem, but I mean, I guess, yeah, they have specifically the team that you're repping right now. So
yeah.
Anyway, okay, we're just rambling about random football stuff now. That's pretty fun though. Okay, I think I've said it all that I needed to say. Vic, anything else before you kick us home?
Kick you home? No.
Kick me home. I know, right? No, don't kick me home.
No, I got nothing else. I'll go ahead and wrap it up. We appreciate you guys for taking some time out of your day and listening to some European soccer with us. Please follow us on all of our social medias. Everything is at No Business Soccer Podcast, except for TikTok and X. That is at No Biz Soc Pod. We will work on getting some look aheads going on for this weekend. Hopefully reaching out to you again on Friday. Hopefully we'll talk to you soon. Y'all go see if Luka Doncic make his debut tonight, and we will talk to y'all soon.
Oh, peace.